Today we're talking about the King of Cups, and I don't like him because I think he's boring. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think he's kind of boring. So I'm hoping that maybe you guys can lighten him up for me. But I have a question I'd like to use to start this whole thing off, and that is, in traditional gender roles, right? We use he's either a gender role. He's typically a man or an older man, or he could be the energy, depending on the context. But if his perception of the world is dependent on his feelings, and feelings are usually considered a feminine trait. So how does that affect the way we look at him as a man? Are we happy he's all squishy and tender and warm and loving? Or do you see it as a sign of weakness, which in essence is kind of what we've been taught about gender roles? What do you think? I'm sorry, was that too heavy to start?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Dump that on us. I think in my world, because he has that maybe that little feminine edge in it, and call him feminine, it keeps him more neutral.
Okay.
Me, it's like he has a better observation of the situation at hand. He may shed a tear. You know what? Sometimes that's not being a whiner or wussy. It means, oh, he's got a heart. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I do. But unfortunately, in my world, I was raised by Archie Bunker and his 3 sons. So to show emotion is weak. So it's funny how all the cards and all the meanings and everything, they really do come back to, how, our context and how we see things is, our life experiences and how we're raised. It's really interesting. So anyway, what do y'all think about this guy? I mean, when you look at it, do you see this as he's different. Is he all that different in context? Is he really all that different in a relationship than he is at work?
No, I think of him. I look at all the kings as being outward facing, whereas I look at the queens as being interior facing. So you have that maturity in it, but in this, we're talking about the King of Cups. It's the mature and looking outwards and dealing with other people. King of Cups, he's emotionally mature. He can take things in stride. He's been there. He doesn't fly off the handle. He doesn't run around, the sky is falling. There's no Chicken Little. He's seen it before. He's been there, done that, and he's going to process things. He's also not going to flip out if somebody is upset about something, right? It's the ability, having that emotional quotient and being able to connect with people, both intellectually, but also on an emotional level. It's leadership. It's, the things that we look for in people that are in leadership positions, and God help you if you have one that doesn't.
Yeah.
So basically, he demonstrates how he maintains calm and equilibrium in the face of adversity.
Absolutely.
Like that. So he's kind of the calm. I always liken him in a positive light. I always liken him to the message that I get from him is a need for a softer approach to something. That's when he shows up in a reading. So that's kind of how I see him. He really is guided. I see him as guided by more of his intuition, than his logic when it comes to making decisions. I think it's like how he feels about something, and he goes by that. He goes by his gut feeling rather than all the facts. You think?
Yeah, he certainly is capable of using them. But I wouldn't say he's illogical either. Like, I think you can parse it too hard.
Yeah. He has a heart. Hey, he's got a heart.
Yeah. Heart-centered decisions.
Yes, heart-centered. Yes.
What
And-
about in love? Obviously, I have read that he could be a good husband, partner, father. It makes him a valuable asset if he shows up. If you're asking about a future with a man, and the King of Cups shows up, it's a real positive. He could be very valuable in a relationship, a valuable asset in a relationship, and that just because of how he is, and he's respectful and understanding, and
Well, put it this way. Have any of you ladies ever been involved in a relationship, however many years you have to go back, with an emotionally immature man?
go back.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ending.
Yeah, right? And how difficult they are to deal with, you
Oh,
know,
no,
and
I have-
when you
I have
have
never
the
had that problem.
2 children under the age of 60, yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 children over the age of 60, don't we, Dee?
Nice.
Not going there.
Yeah.
I think of the King of Cups as a person who's well-rounded, who is in touch with their emotions, who is not driven by emotions, but because he's the king, he's an authority figure, he's mature, I just think he's well-rounded when it comes to making decisions because of the fact that he is a cup. He is able to, he's not just all business. He knows that, that there's more to it, and that, he takes into consideration the feelings of whoever he's around. And in a reading, I guess it just depends on what that question would be, but I don't see him as a negative. I see him as a well-rounded person.
Well, just wait, because I'm going to give you some food for thought on the other.
I'm
But
ready.
and as you were talking, I was thinking about him, his level of testosterone, and how some masculine energy can get really uppity and egocentric, and he doesn't come across, in his positive light, he doesn't come across as egocentric. So he doesn't have to take on that energy that, how when guys all get together, it's like, yeah, and he can sit back and look at a situation. And of course that comes back to, being able to be supportive and understanding, and listening to how people feel, but not have to take on their more masculine emotions. He can be the calm, maybe a calm port, or at least somebody that can what am I thinking of? Somebody that can lend a calmer, like I said, a softer approach to something.
I think this guy is like, because he is a king and because he is at that maturity level, he's already maybe been through all that. I mean, you look at all the cups, and as it gets to the final stage where he's already learned all these lessons, and so he has all these things to work with. So that's he's able to handle situations in not such a uppity or fiery kind of way. You know what I mean?
Calm.
Yeah, and because he's a cups too. I mean, it's all the things that are connected with cups, right?
Yeah.
Water, calm. I mean, if you're reading the cards, upside down too, if you read them reversed, well then, yeah, maybe, his not so nice side might be, I don't know. I think that just like every other card, if you look at the negative, what can you find there?
Sure.
Emotionally immature? I don't know. I
Yes.
don't think so though, but I mean, because if that were the case, the card, if the reading is wanting you to see someone who is emotionally immature, would the king come up?
I know the page. I think the page.
Right. Right.
Or even the knight. But rather than, we look at these reverse cards, and I don't read reversed, but we look at the reverse cards as oftentimes as the opposite of the right side up. And so, here's somebody who's emotionally mature. So, you automatically go to emotionally immature. Let me suggest this instead. On his shadow side, more not emotionally insecure, not emotionally immature, but how about emotionally dominant? See, I see him a lot like the Empress, right? So right side up, positive, the Empress is motherly, but her shadow side there's a fine line between her upside and her reverse side. One is mothering, the other one is smothering. So you know how that there can be a fine line between those two. And I see him as, this is somebody who's emotionally dominant. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's just, dominating it, being the king of it, but in a shadow way instead of in a positive way. Anne Marie, what do you say about that?
Yeah, I want to like him.
Me too.
And yet when I look at him, I get a few different vibes, let's say. Number one, I question if it was depending again on the question, but when he comes up, I would question the reality of the situation for a start.
Ooh.
Because here he is sitting on a big rock on the water. How real is this? So that's just something that kind of comes up for me when I'm looking at that. Oh, there's my battery almost gone. So I kind of it brings up that question: how real is this situation? What do you want to ask about this? Is it as it seems? Now, I don't know why that happens, but that's a feeling I get from time to time with different questions. And number two, I get the feeling about like what Lynn was saying, that he's very emotionally, would you call him emotionally secure? I feel
he could be emotionally stable. He can be emotionally dominant.
But what it reminds me of, what I feel about him is, what it reminds me of is in a house situation, in a parent situation, someone gets into trouble, a child gets into trouble, and or a child wants some advice, and to my mind, if you go to the king, he'll say he will know what it's about. He will know what you should or might do, but he'll probably say, "Ask your mother."
You think,
so that's what I feel.
That
he will, because looking at him, I look at him as compared to the Queen, and he's sitting up on this rock in the middle of nowhere, and he's making sure there's no part of him touching the water. His toe or his foot or anything is well out of the water. He doesn't want to get too involved in the whole emotion. He's not going to get too bogged down by any of this emotional stuff. Not that he can't, but that he doesn't necessarily want to. And whereas the Queen, she's totally immersed, and she's totally into this. She can hardly help herself. But the King knows it all, but he will decide what he's going to do. That's what kind of comes to me for the King. So as I say, nothing bad about him, but I just think he's making his own rules, and he's standing back and saying, see how this goes. And if all comes to all, if I have to make a decision, I will, but see who we can get first.
So, on
That's
the
how I
negative,
feel about him.
On the negative side, I found this. He could just be. Are you ready for this? Emotionally disturbed at the highest level. Worst case scenario. Well, because emotionally disturbed, and he is a king, highest level. But see, to me, and I just thought that was
at the high. Yeah.
But to me, see, this is where positions come in really handy, because I don't read reversals. So it's hard with the court cards, because they can go either way. It's like, which way is this guy going? Because that's going to change the whole reading. That's one of the things that I like about Lenormand, is that, when you pull the man and you have a question about the man, and the man is a subject, and the snake comes up next to the man. Well, a snake is a snake is a snake. There's not a million meanings for Lenormand cards. They have one meaning. And this would be a troubled man. At least it gives you that, so that you have something to work with, where you're pretty much, even though you have to, you follow the cards, what comes before and after, it's still, there's so much subjectiveness, to figuring out which way this guy's going. So I kind of don't trust the kings, any of them really, because of that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I kind of think he's doing his own thing. He's a bit devious in his own nice way. I came across a definition for him again somewhere, I don't know, and it was deeply rooted, which is kind of the same line that you were going along, Lynn. Now, I wouldn't have picked that up, but having deeply rooted insecurities.
Okay, Anne-Marie,
Yeah.
you got cut off there, so repeat that meaning or that definition you had again.
What I came across was deeply rooted insecurities.
Oh, okay. All right, we want to make sure we got that.
Deeply rooted insecurities. And I came across something that depending again on what reading you've got, but if what his motivation could be, if you see him in a reading where someone is wondering, I think Lynn kind of covered this earlier, if you see him in a reading where someone is wondering about a potential partner, if he's in this reading as the main part, it could be that he wants to start a family, and that could include a proposal coming, or perhaps a suggestion to the wife that he would like to have children. Or if he's not married, and if it's not in a romantic situation, it could be that he wants to be a new and a better provider. This would still be in a family situation, but if he wants to be perhaps a new and a better provider, or a more emotionally mature,
or emotionally available.
So they're just things that could come up about him. Emotionally available, yes, those kind of things that maybe, if you're wondering about him, as you said, positional things will make all the difference, and maybe the card before or after him, or that would give you some inkling. But they're all different things he could have. He also has an ambition that everyone should be emotionally mature, and so he will be trying to teach the family. He wants them all working on a nice civil. That very much part of his ethos will be to have everybody dealing civilly with everybody else and conscious of each other's feelings. And somewhere else I read that he's like the dad of the neighborhood, that he's all heart, that he's playing baseball with somebody, and he's going to the Cubs, and everyone looks at him as the dad of the neighborhood because he's larger than life and all heart. He's the man.
Yeah. So when you were
so
talking,
take your pick depending on where you are.
When you were talking, and we're talking about being emotionally available and teaching about emotions, it made me think of my own upbringing and my brothers, and how my father would, big boys don't cry. He was very much into keeping your emotions to yourself, and he taught that to my brothers, and they in turn are teaching that to their children.
Yes.
So it's funny again how that comes up. I came upon a situation. While doing zodiac readings this last few days, and one of the things that came up from my studies on this for this thing was the balance between practicality and emotional. So part of him being practical, and part of him being emotional, and being able to keep that balance. And the King of Cups came up in finances. And what I said, and what I thought was really interesting is, look at, and I think what I said in that was, use as an example buying a car, having to come up with a very, very large major expense for something, and making sure that King was there to make sure that you looked at the facts, you looked at the practicality of the situation, and not just, and have to balance that with your emotional needs for that, what that car could stand for. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it is emotional having to buy a car. It is downright emotional, and you get excited, and but trying to keep it in reality, trying to keep it grounded in reality of, hey, you know, you've got a budget. And I know you like all these bells and whistles, but this is what you can afford, and being able to balance the two. You know, so I mean, in you know, in a
You see, to my mind, he would.
In your mind, he would
To
what?
my mind, he would stand back from that a bit. He would stand back a bit from this and say, "Whatever you think, dear." that he. That's just what comes to me. That he's not prepared to put on the line.
Yeah.
That he might know the thing to do, and that, but he's not prepared to make himself unpleasant or unpopular, even though he might know what the thing to do is. That he will try to avoid taking too much responsibility. That,
Sure.
I don't know why I think that, but that's what reminds me. That's what he reminds me of. That it's not that he's very capable, very polished, very nice. He knows what to do. He's a king. He has been through all the experiences. But if he can avoid being seen as unpopular or making unpopular decisions, he will pass those on to some other underling. Does that make sense?
So in the various scenarios that we could come up with, in what type of scenario would you like to see the King of Cups come up in, Dee?
Well, I just consider him the master of emotions, and he knows his boundaries. And it's either take a look at it from the heart or look at it in a different way. But he's in my corner more so than, and because he's a cup, I don't look at a lot of, he's neutral. He just stays neutral and keeps it on the right path. So as far as where would I like to see him, it's like he's covering my back, or he's covering that person's back, knowing you're in good hands.
Well, that's good. Never thought about that from that angle. That's good.
Yeah, but you see, again, because he's water, he's a cup, all right. But because he's water, he will pour himself to fish without.
We're having trouble with you, Anne Marie, today. We're having trouble with your phone today.
That
for those of you
yes,
watching,
I'm getting. I'll move to a different room. That maybe it's where I am. That I find that he's so flexible. He's willing to be whatever he needs to be, like a chameleon.
Yeah.
That water will shape itself to any container or any situation it finds it in, and that's what I think a bit about him. That he will fit into any situation that he's in, so that he shows to best advantage.
He's a shapeshifter.
Yes. That, but not in a bad way. I think there's a lot of goodness in him, and I don't think. Yeah, I kind of get a good. He means well, I think.
Yes.
But he wants to be thought well of.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So
well, that's helpful.
yeah. Anyway, that's.
Paige, anything else on this?
Well, I'm looking at the King of Cups in the Druid Craft Tarot, and their point of view of the King of Cups is very interesting. It's different. It says that he's a man of wisdom, compassion, and artistic stability. Yes, and it says he's accomplished. He's someone who has attained success and maturity in the artistic or cultural fields.
Yeah.
So, and then it also goes on to say that that he's a master of his feelings, and that he places responsibility before his own personal needs. So there's another take. And their keywords for the King of Cups is tolerant, sincere, compassionate. Now, if you wanted to do the reversal, you could just, insincere, intolerant, and not compassionate, but and then it goes on to talk basically in this particular deck, this king is more about the arts, and it's also about let's see, it says here, when not denoting a person, this card may indicate either a spiritual group or path concerned with ritual, or it may refer to a spiritual, therapeutic, or cultural project, music and the performing arts, publishing, artistic endeavors, and exhibitions. All of these may be significant. So I mean, that's just more to it. It's not just so much about the individual that's on the card itself, but what he denotes, what he also can signify.
I
So
think
depending on the
to
read,
me,
right?
a lot of those other things, you know, it's like, gee, what careers does a particular card, you know, conjure up, or what other situations? It's hard with the courts, you know, it's hard because we're so inclined to see them as people, but I also think it's easy to see them. I mean, I find I tend to see them more as energy. And one of the things about him is emotional healing. You know, when you're looking at the spiritual side, like you brought up the spiritual side, you know, it could be emotional healing too, you know, I think because of the emotions of him. So, Kate, anything?
I'm just kind of thinking, you know, because of course I do a lot of political tarot, and one of the things that I would pull out of a like contemporary example would be the current King of England, right? That he's mature, but he also has a very artistic side. However, that whole idea of diplomacy and, I mean, dealing with people on an emotional level, which is basically his job
Kind of responsibility, yeah,
and responsibility, and that he can't put himself. Now, it's not just his desires or what he wants, but it has to take in a very constricted kind of environment. So that was just popped into my head that if I was going to name somebody right now for the King of Cups, it would be Charles, King of England.
Yeah, like that. You know, I just have.
Yes.
Can he cook?
He cooks.
Yes, of course he can. That's an artistic endeavor.
That's an artistic endeavor, yes. He's a good artist too.
Yes. So we'll throw that in.
I came across when you were talking about the cups, of course I can't find it now, but I came across something during the week, and it was about when you have court cards in a reading. If you have one king, as I say, if you have one courtyard, if you have one court card, it's a person. If you have two court cards, I'll have to find this in case I'm telling you the wrong thing. If you've got two court cards in a reading, it can be forces or attributes of the situation.
Interesting.
No, I'll have to find this because I could be telling you the wrong thing. I wrote it down because I thought it was interesting. And of course, finding it now will be quite another little story. So I'll keep going, and I'll find this and come back to you.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. This is me frantically rooting through stuff here.
While you're
Do
searching,
you know something? Well, wait till I tell you something now before we go any further. Do you know what I came across in the meantime? I was looking at, maybe we should leave this. No, we leave this until we're doing something with knights. Yeah, because I came across something I thought was interesting about the knights. So this is not the right time. This is the king's time.
what? You might forget. Say it now.
But it's a tease.
Well, do you want to know what it is? I tell you what. No, I've lost this as well. I was looking at the Knight of Pentacles, and he's riding on a black horse.
We have 10
and
minutes.
I was looking at Knight of Pentacles, black horse, wands, red horse, cups, white horse, swords, white horse. And you know something? Somewhere I came across the fact that they are tied into the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first one rides in on a white horse. The second one rides in on a red horse, and that's bloodshed and war. The third one rides in on a black horse, and that's pestilence and famine. And the fourth one rides in on a pale horse, and that's death.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It is
We'll
interesting.
cover that.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
So,
So this is in the Rider-Waite Smith now.
Yay. So does anybody have anything they're doing that they want to share that they're doing this month, or anything coming up? I just have zodiacs, and I'm just trying to stay afloat here in New England. So
Well, here's something. Here's something fun. I got an email just last night from the Northwest Tarot Symposium. It's a big deal.
Yep, it is.
It's a huge deal. Well, I think last year, maybe even the year before, I inquired because I wasn't ready, but I thought, well, what the hell? Why not? Right.
Sure.
Well, I got a message from them saying, welcome. We invite you to participate. I'm like,
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a very big deal. And I hope you'll take it. And isn't that interesting? Because Dee has had a couple of run-ins herself this month, haven't you?
Yes, actually I have, about festival and patina, possibly. We'll see how it all goes.
Somebody's asked her to read at a ongoing, like a marketplace.
ooh, cool.
And it's like, oh wow, that's so cool. And then at the same time, you waltzed into a retail shop that sells tarot cards.
Yeah.
And they may be interested in having her come in as a reader. So I mean, that's all at once. That's all at once. That's really terrific. Are you back to doing anything? Are you going to wait till after vacation, Kate?
After vacation, and I'm busy reading. I am really doing a lot of reading and done a lot of writing, but I haven't done any filming.
That's okay. And I'm kind of like with you. It's there's a time to regroup, and I'm kind of working on getting outside of myself and outside of the tarot, but I have so many things. I think one of the things that would be very therapeutic for me would be to I have literally 6.5 pages of single space typed let's call them YouTube titles of videos that I'd like to do, and I really need to get a handle on that, because it's the point now where I've got so much that I'm overwhelmed, and it's that analysis paralysis. So it's just like
I'm really at the point where I need to kind of dive deeper, or go inside and figure out where I'm going. It's another level of learning. I'm going to open up this more for me, but I just have to give it some time and let it percolate.
Sure. And I think that's for all of us, needing to, I want to move forward, and I feel like I'm kind of stagnant in one place, but I don't know how, or I don't know what avenue I want to take to move forward. And I think once I decide that and start down that path, I think it's going to be easier, because right now I'm at that, it's not just a crossroad of, which two of these directions should I take? I'm like in a circle where I've got the paths all around me. I'm kind of in a 7 of cups mode, and yay, trying to figure that out. So
you're in an 8 of swords, so you'll be surrounded by ideas, and they're tormenting you.
They're not negative, but I'm just confused.
No.
I'm confused. So between now and the next time the next time we see each other, this coming weekend, as a matter of fact, I am in Maine, because Kate is in New Brunswick, Canada, and we are meeting next weekend in Bangor, Maine. So all excited that we finally get to sit down at the campfire and cook together and look at decks and have fun. So we're real excited about it. We'll have to share what happened with that when we get back. So next month, ladies, I'd like to talk to you about something real quickly, and that is I'm having a hard time with trying to do this, trying to prepare for this, trying to prepare for all my zodiacs and month end and travel all in the same week. And so if it's all right with you, can we move this to the 3rd Tuesday instead of the 4th Tuesday of the month? Would that be okay with everybody? Dee, how's that on with your various appointments?
That's fine. It's a Tuesday.
Okay?
It's good.
Yeah, Tuesday at noon, still Tuesday at noon Central Standard Time. That's great. Next month, let's do you want to talk about, what would you like to talk about? I was thinking either our favorite decks or what would you like to talk about? Anything in particular? I had a list.
Well, Anne-Marie had some really good ideas there. Last time we kind of went through this. What's on top for you, Anne-Marie?
Oh, well, I do you know, I don't know. I can't think of what good ideas I might have had.
Well,
but
we'll surprise everybody. You'll know,
Okay, well,
you'll know when we know. How's that?
We could talk about 3-card spreads. Those are always kind of fun. I don't know.
Well,
they are.
and
Yep.
you know what I would love to do. There was a couple of gals that did a podcast, and I have to go find that because I've talked to a couple of you about this already. But what I really, really loved that they did on their podcast was they would take a question, right? They take a scenario and a question, and I can bring a million of those. And they take a question, and then they both pull 3 cards, and to answer the question. And then they would just literally give a quick synopsis of their 3 cards. And it's like, oh, isn't that interesting? Because I pulled these 3 cards, and look how they either meshed with what you pulled or not. Is how they differed, and that's what they talked about, how the response or how the question differed from how they were alike. And so that might be kind of a fun thing to do. We'll throw out some questions in advance, but
Yep.
all right, great. Ladies,
have we time? I found that bit of paper. Have I time to tell you that 1 card, you read it as a person. 2 to 3 cards, they're aspects or forces of the situation. 4+ cards are aspects or forces of the querent. And when you're looking at kings and queens, you could call them people. Whereas knights and pages, you could take it as what people are actually their feelings towards the querent in this particular situation.
Oh, very good. Where'd you
So
get that?
just possibility. I have no idea. I'm throwing through all kinds of stuff.
That's my problem. I got way too much stuff. I don't know where stuff came from.
I'll have to say that I've been looking at a site called Tea and Tarot, I think, and he's come up with some bits and pieces on YouTube. He has a book called Taroscopy.
Oh yes.
No, that's Mark. No, that's Marcus Katz. That's the wrong one. This is another fella, anyway, Tea and Tarot, and he has some ideas. Anyway, I think they came from him.
Is that Rick Leaf?
Lots of other.
Is that Rick Leaf? It might be Rick Leaf. I can't remember his first name.
Well, I can't think of it, but he comes on. His picture comes on, and he has this white wig on him.
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is.
This mad-looking white wig, but he has lots of different pieces. There's another thing he's got, and it's an NLP thing, and it's about how to solve any situation. I'm sure you've come across this. How to solve any situation in 7 days.
No, you have to send that along. So we're out of time. I want to say goodbye to everybody. Have a very good month, everybody. And
you too.
We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Yes, have fun in that camp.
See ya.